which is really going to be a great new asset for Salisbury Beach. Those types of things, sometimes government gets in the way. And what's our job? Our job is to try and iron it out. I was talking with Tom Sub, we're talking about sand, and that's a real big challenge that we have, not only at Salisbury Beach, but also on Plum Island. So we have the Piscataqua dredging project up in New Hampshire and Portsmouth, and we're looking to work out all the permitting with dumping that offshore so that, that sand can eventually make its way and to renourish the beach. But we're also talking about dredging in the Merrimack. But Tom said something interesting to me. He says, hey, look, we want to buy some sand in the interim, deposit it on the beach to protect the dune system, plant dune grass, but the message we're getting from DEP is that we can't do that. And I said, well, that's different from the message that I got from the representative at DEP when I spoke with them. They told me that we can. So I said, Tom, I'm going to go tomorrow on my way into Boston. I'm going to make a phone call over to the DEP, and we're going to get a ruling on this issue and make sure that, ultimately we can get it ironed out. So that's the biggest part of our job. The other biggest part of our job is, of course, education, because that affects not only, the people throughout the district, the people with children, it affects the businesses, it affects, the economy in terms of home sales. So one of the things the senator and myself and Representative Brad Hill, because he represents part of the Triton Regional School District, had yesterday was a meeting with Superintendent Forget and Narissa Wallen. When I tell you that Triton has an all-star and Narissa Wallen as its chairperson of the Triton School Committee, that's an understatement. She's a superstar. So some of the things that we were talking about yesterday gave us good information to be able to go back to Beacon Hill and have a conversation with the people that can really make some things happen. I spent over 8 hours on Friday in an education committee hearing on Beacon Hill. It was a long day, and there was a lot of they brought in some star power. I'm sure some of you heard about the New England Patriots coming in and talking about how we need to invest in the urban school districts and what we need to do for people that are poor, struggling, and I asked a question of the New England Patriots players, and I knew that they didn't have the answer. I knew that the people in the audience had the answer, or might be able to give me the information that I was looking for. And I found it kind of funny. I looked at the faces of the McCourty brothers and Daron Harmon and Matthew Slater. I said, guys, what about Salisbury? What about Amesbury? And what about Newburyport? And if you look back at the tape, McCourty twins kind of looked at each other, and Matthew Slater was like, oh no, they were pushing the microphone around, and Daron Harmon ended up answering the question. He gave me somewhat of an answer, that this would take care of everybody. But if you talk to Narissa Wallen, she knows the nuts and bolts. She knows the intimate details, and she knows what it's going to take for us to be able to deliver for the people of Salisbury, so that you're not hampered by this really big, huge assessment this year. So you all make our jobs much, much easier for us. And that's why, George, I'm out in the community. That's why the senator is out in the community. That's the reason why we take all the Facebook posts. By the way, I take a lot of Facebook posts, but there's a young lady right there that I think has got me beat for the most Facebook posts. She's out there all of the time showing everybody where she's at, and she's doing a tremendous job. And I know a lot of you... So this Senator Diana DiZoglio and I, and by the way, I heard you call Diana DiZiglio this morning, and I think her name is Diana DiZoglio, and she's doing a great job. I first met Diana when I ran as an independent. I ran as an independent candidate for her seat back in 2012 as an unenrolled candidate. And when the newspaper, I see the Daily News, Jim Sullivan here, when the newspaper called me when the seat opened up, when our lovely former Senator Kathleen O'Connor Ives decided that she was going to do some other things, she was going to run again, said, "Are you going to run?" I said, "Absolutely not." So, because it's a lot of work, The senator is out there all the time. It's half of North Andover, it's Haverhill, it's Methuen, it's Merrimack, and she's really paying a lot of great attention to the district. And I know there was some concern because we had a senator from Newburyport. There was concern that, well, you know what, we're going to lose somebody who's going to really, focus in on Salisbury. But that hasn't happened. Our senator has not skipped a beat. She's really picked up where Senator Ives left off. She's done what she said she's going to do and then some. And she's really been a terrific partner. I've had the pleasure of serving with Senator DiZoglio in the House prior to her going over to the Senate, and I miss her, I have to say that. We have a nice collegial group of individuals over in the House of Representatives, and I said to her, before she left, I was like, why do you want to leave this? This is terrific. So, but she has aspirations and she has goals, and I understand why she decided that she needed to take the next step. But the House of Representatives is truly a great place, and that's where we developed our relationship. So it's been terrific to have somebody that you've served with in the House versus somebody that you don't know, and then they go on to the Senate, and you're working together to serve the district, this great district. And Salisbury truly is a great district. We have a lot of great businesses here. We're focused in on getting things done down at the beach, but we're also focused in on getting some things addressed within, the rest of Salisbury too. Salisbury has a lot to offer. Fred Knowles, where are you, Fred? Fred reminds me that, I don't know, maybe 100 or 200 years ago, my house actually was part of Salisbury. So, is it true? So Main Street, if you keep driving down Main Street over to the great city of Amesbury, it turns into Monroe Street, right? And my house is there on 50 Monroe Street, and at one point in time, it was part of the Salisbury Plains, right?
Right up to 1888.
Yeah, and my backyard goes right into that wonderful golf course of Jody's, where Jody's husband works. So yes, it was once part of Salisbury. So it's a great area. It's an area I grew up in. I've told you the story before. Told you about the rides and the history and all the wonderful memories that I have growing up in Salisbury Beach. But most of all, thank you for the wonderful privilege and opportunity to represent you. Going into my third term, 5th month, it's hard to believe, time flies. We're having a great time in there, and we're really looking forward to accomplishing some terrific things. And I also want to thank Chief Tom Fowler, the fire department, the public safety officials. But in addition to your selectmen who do a terrific job, I think I was texting Wilma for some numbers from the Education Committee hearing the other day. Please don't tell anybody, but I'm not looking up, scores on the internet. I'm texting people like Wilma for good information about the school budget. But Chief Tom Fowler had Deb Smith and Pettingill House and Tiffany who are back there who are doing great work for the people. We're all in here this evening, and we have a wonderful meal, and we're around great people. But there are people out there, and I never believed it until Ralph Castagna brought me out back to the MBTA station one time and said, I gotta show you something. And there's a homeless encampment back there, or there was at the time. There are people right now living outside. There are people who are doing without. There are kids that are going to bed right now without full bellies. And, it's people like Chief Fowler who really care to bring, attention to Deb Smith and Tiffany and the work that they're doing. They're really doing God's work, and they're taking care of these people. Thank you. Thank you. So thank all of you for the wonderful opportunity to serve you, and I think Wilma's kind of given me the hook. She tells me to always keep it short. I'm sure I went on too long, but now it's time to introduce, I've said a lot about her already, my wonderful friend, my colleague, Diana DiZoglio, who was serving previously in the House of Representatives since 2012. 2013 she was sworn in, and she was recently sworn in as your senator for the 1st Essex District, and she's going to tell you lots of great stuff. So, Diana DiZoglio.
I love you too.
Those are some great words. I feel like I just got an endorsement. Can I count that towards the next election cycle? Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. There we go. I want to make sure that everyone is with me here. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. Thanks so much for the invitation. It's Salisbury Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to George for the invitation, and to Nancy for inviting us as well, and for hosting us. This is a really important opportunity for your state legislators and elected officials in general to get to connect with the people that are making business happen here in the Merrimack Valley. Recently, first of all, my name's Diana DiZoglio. I am the new state senator for Salisbury. I currently also represent Methuen, North Andover, Haverhill, Amesbury, Merrimack, and Newburyport. I was formerly the state representative for Lawrence, Methuen, Haverhill, and North Andover, and it's quite an honor to be able to pick up the surrounding communities in this area that I spend most of my summers in, to be honest with you. So it's very exciting. But being new to this position, I've been extremely grateful for our partners in local government, our Board of Selectmen members, our school committee members, who have done a great job at educating me on the importance of the state officials working together with the local officials on issues pertaining to things like education, sand replenishment, the roads and bridges, your issues here with the roads and bridges and their condition, all sorts of issues. I, not being somebody who's represented this area for a long time, am learning about all of these issues, and I can't do my job at the state level, like Jim was saying, without speaking to you and without your advocacy to us. So I'm grateful for your constant communication with us, and I'm encouraging you to keep it up so that we can do our job and work together. I'm going to jump right into some things that are happening at the State House right now and some of the priorities, and I feel a little odd with this little thing right here. I'm not going to lie. I'm trying to get comfortable up here, and it's a little odd because I have this little podium where I feel like I'm supposed to. We're just getting out of St. Patty's Day month, so the jokes are still okay. So at the State House right now, I was recently named the chair of the Community Development and Small Business Committee. That's really, really exciting to me. Thank you. That's really exciting to me because here in the Merrimack Valley, as you all know, as the business leaders in our community, I'm going to step out from beside the miniature platform if that's okay. We have unique challenges here in the Merrimack Valley, and anybody who's tried to run a small business, work on employee-related issues, deal with the sales tax issue, deal with other tax-related issues, deal with zoning issues, whatever it is, you know that there have been challenges based on the fact that we are on the New Hampshire border. And having somebody representing those issues at the state level allows for the rest of the state legislators to better understand our challenges and your concerns. We have a voice now in the Merrimack Valley through you speaking to me and to Jim, bringing your voice to the State House on this committee and explaining the challenges and making your challenges and your concerns, the issues that are important to you, a little bit more salient to other legislators who aren't maybe getting approached about the challenges that you're approaching us with. They really are unique issues in these border communities when we talk about things like, alcohol tax. Any sort of thing that's different with New Hampshire presents potentially a challenge for your local business. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but that's why I asked for this committee, because I really think that the Merrimack Valley has a lot to give regarding statewide policy based on our unique challenges, and I think that we can pave the way for a successful Massachusetts based out of our unique challenges that we've been able to come up with solutions for. In speaking with you, you've identified all sorts of challenges in your local businesses. The one that I've heard most about recently, and I'm sure you're going to continue to come to me with things as they arise, and I encourage you to do so, but the thing that I've been hearing most about has been EMAC. It's your contribution to health insurance for your employers who choose to go on Mass Health. Has anybody had any sort of an issue with this? Oh, that's great. So this is something that I've been hearing about. It's a challenge. Health insurance in Massachusetts right now is a challenge. Small businesses' contribution to health insurance in Massachusetts is a challenge. Small businesses are struggling to make those contributions, and they're looking to the state for assistance. So that's something that we're going to be looking at on the Financial Services Committee, on the Healthcare Financing Committee, and on the Community Development and Small Business Committee. We're going to look at zoning reforms, smart growth development, making sure that we're working together with local developers, local business owners, and our local governments and zoning boards to come up with zoning reforms that make sense to contribute to economic development in our region, to contribute to housing development and production in a smart way. Excuse me, I'm going to grab some water here. And to work towards these reforms in public-private partnerships, utilizing programs like MassWorks. MassWorks is a great program where the state comes in, recognizes a project that's happening, and says this is something that's going to contribute back to the public. This is something that the public can use, that the public can utilize. This is something that's going to contribute to economic development in our region. It's a grant program that the state has where they work together with local businesses in our community to create economic development, to contribute to economic development by providing grants and resources to businesses in the community that are going to give back in some way regarding housing, regarding bringing funding into the local community, contributing to the tax base, whatever it is. Those types of public-private partnerships are what we're going to continue to look at on the committee for which I chair right now. A lot of other issues pertaining to small business, but I could spend all night talking about taxes and red tape and regulations and health insurance. So I want to get to some of the issues that I've heard about regarding Salisbury in particular. In Salisbury, I see a couple of beach associations here. Wave your hands if you're on one of the beach associations. We have a couple of groups here, a couple of members of these groups. I thank you for your advocacy. You've helped me to identify some of the concerns and challenges that your members have faced, particularly those that live along the beach or have their businesses along the beach. One of the issues was pertaining recently to the Salisbury State Reservation and the fund that was created actually by former Senator Steve Bedore years ago, a fund which came out of the fees that are given to Salisbury State Reservation. Those fees, a portion of those fees is given to a fund. That fund is supposed to go towards redevelopment of the beach, replenishment of the beach, making sure that the beach is beautiful. There was a problem getting information from DCR regarding what the funds were actually being used for. And because there happened to be, at times, just at times, differences of opinion on how those funds should be used, it was of concern to residents who wanted to make sure that the funds were being used appropriately, and it was of concern that residents felt like the state wasn't being that transparent in how we were using those fees and using their tax dollars. So recently, we approached the DCR commissioner, had a conversation, asked him to release the information about where the funds were being spent, and he has done so. Sent the information to our office, we got that to the Board of Selectmen, we got that to the beach associations, and we are happy to release that to anybody who has concerns about that so that you can see where those funds are being spent and get back to us and let us know where you think they should be being spent, if you think they're being spent appropriately, or if you think that those funds should be spent in a different way. Also asked the DCR commissioner if he would have an issue with coming out here, and he said absolutely not. He's happy to come out here, he's happy to talk to the beach associations, happy to talk to the local officials and to any residents about ideas that you have regarding making Salisbury Beach beautiful, keeping it beautiful, and contributing to the region. That was something that came out of the conversations that I had with you, getting that information, bringing it back. That's our job as your state legislative delegation, is to be communicative with you, take your concerns, bring it back at the state level, advocate for you, and make sure that we're your voice on Beacon Hill. So things like that, if they come up regarding the beach, regarding issues pertaining to dredging, sand harvesting, all new words to me since I started as your new state senator. We want to hear about your concerns, your challenges, your ideas, things that you think would be good for this community. And we can then take that information back to DEP, DCR, relay that information, and maybe help cut through some of the red tape that maybe has presented some challenges for this community. Another issue that I've heard about is the CSO issue. Has everybody heard of the CSO issue? And I like interaction. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just going on and on and on by myself talking in the mirror. Anybody heard about the CSO issue? Combined sewer overflow. The acronyms get me too, don't worry about it. I'm very excited to be drinking out of this very clean glass of water and having this nice clean drinking water right here. Clean water. It's something we're all concerned about. Right now, what's happening is because of old, aging infrastructure that was built long before our time, we have an issue with sewage, combined sewage overflow, coming from the sanitary districts, the water treatment plants, dumping into the river, flowing down the river, coming all the way from New Hampshire, going through Lowell, going through Lawrence, coming all the way down and going all the way out of the mouth of the river in Newburyport into the ocean. I hadn't heard about this issue much. I don't even honestly think, Jim, that I got one call about this while I was a state representative. And Jim has probably been hearing about this for years.
Welcome.
Yes, it's very exciting times. I never thought I was going to deal with poop flowing down the river as part of my job as a state senator, but here we are, happy to be here. So as a state representative, I represented the portion of the river where everything was coming out of, right? So everything from the area that I live in is coming right down to the area that you all live in. So now I'm hearing about this issue, and it is of tremendous concern to me. I've been getting a very quick education on this. You have been fantastic in breaking down all of the ins and outs of the combined sewage overflow issue. And what we've learned is that it's going to take working together in partnerships with the federal government, because the problem is starting in New Hampshire. It's going to take working together with all of the advocacy groups who have something to bring to the table, working together with the water treatment facilities, the Greater Lawrence Sanitary District, Lowell Sanitary District, and beyond. And it's going to take working together with all of the local officials and advocates and residents who are concerned in this region in order to come up with some potential solutions. Because there are a lot of opinions going around right now. And when I talk to people in one community and then another community and another community, everybody is saying that this is an issue, but the solutions that people are bringing to the table are significantly different in nature. So what we decided to do, Representative Kelcourse, me, and Mayor Holliday, one day we were sitting in the mayor's office for a meeting regarding just different issues impacting the region, education, healthcare, you name it. And this was one of the issues we discussed. And what we came up with for the solution for now, and this is going to be something that's going to help in the long term, is creating a regional task force, bringing all of the stakeholders together and having us meet on a consistent basis in this region to try to have a conversation where collaboration is encouraged so that we can start talking to one another. Because all of the different communities are talking about this issue, but the communities aren't talking necessarily to each other. So you have Salisbury has their idea of what's happening, Amesbury has their idea about what's happening, Methuen has a different idea, Lawrence has a different perspective, Lowell, never mind all the way up in New Hampshire, where we don't really have communication with their officials. They're a different state, they have different rules and regulations about how they're running their sanitary districts, all of that. We have been in conversations through, where's Karen Conard? Is she here? Karen Conard's right back there. So what we did is we asked the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission to help us facilitate this task force and get this task force together regionally, to bring all the elected officials together and all the stakeholders together on a consistent basis to help us to come up with these solutions. And the reason why we appointed the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission was to make sure that the political bickering wasn't going to be an issue. We thought it was appropriate to have somebody that was a nonprofit in the region who could help to facilitate these discussions and these concerns, to make sure that all voices were heard and that everybody got a chance to contribute to the conversation. I am fighting right now to try to get some funding in the state budget to come back through the Merrimack Planning Commission to help us to actually have these types of meetings, to build this task force up regionally, to make sure we can get all of our federal partners to the table to come up with creative solutions for this. And I'm very grateful for the MVPC for agreeing to help us out with this and for agreeing to contribute to the region in this way. And I think we're going to come up with some really great solutions, because we have notification bills out there. We have pre-notification bills out there. We have all sorts of different legislation. But I think that by coming together, we're going to produce better results at the end of the day. Aside from that, there are a lot of other things going on, but I see people's eyes starting to kind of glaze over a little bit. So, and I get it, I've had a long day too. 5 a.m. over here. At this point, what I want to do is just, I do have one more thing to say. Can I just talk about one more issue? Is that okay with everyone? Yes. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that response. That's nice, Chuck, thanks. Very patriotic music over here. That's great. I see a lot of people who, maybe don't necessarily run a small business, but they do work in the nonprofit sector, and they do work in different organizations in the community that contribute to us all. I want to thank, obviously, our public safety officials for being here. I want to thank our senior center directors for being here. Councils on Aging are so important to help our seniors not just survive, but to thrive in our community. We need to make sure that we're funding our councils on aging appropriately. And I also see some of our education officials here as well. God bless you. Right now, education funding is one of the #1 things happening at the state level. And I'm so glad you gave me an opportunity to talk about it, because it is one of the #1 things we're working on. Education funding has been an issue for as long as probably anybody can remember, but we have something called the Chapter 70 funding formula and the foundation budget for our public schools in Massachusetts. That funding formula, since the Education Reform Bill way back when, has not been reformed in over 25 years. Not significantly reformed. There have been minor changes here and there, but it hasn't been significantly examined and significantly reformed in over 25 years. So when the education bill was created, and what was the year, Maureen? 1993, we're talking? 25 years ago, 1993. Special education, the definition of special education, was significantly different than what it is today. The assumed costs for special education weren't what the actual costs ended up being. Transportation assumed costs weren't what the actual costs ended up being. Healthcare costs have skyrocketed. Retiree costs gone up. People are living longer. These things were supposed to be reevaluated every couple of years, and they weren't. So what ended up happening is we've gotten to this point where we are now at least over $1 billion, and we are underfunding our education system by over $1 billion, probably by about $2 billion, depending on who you talk to. We had a committee come together and present some solutions to us, some potential solutions on how to reform our Chapter 70 funding formula to make sure that we were contributing adequately to our public schools. And we have been trying to implement a lot of those reforms. But what's happening right now is we have urban communities, rural communities, suburban communities. We have regional school districts versus the traditional school districts. We have charter school reimbursements. We have issues pertaining to transportation and healthcare that vary from community to community. So it's been a challenging issue for the legislature to come up with something that is as fair as it can be across the board, that's going to benefit all of our school districts significantly. We've been meeting with your superintendents. We've been meeting with your school committee members and with your local officials on this issue, and we've been meeting with advocates and parents alike. And one thing we know, we need to increase funding significantly. But we are facing some challenges when it comes to making sure that our regional school districts are represented as they should be, along with those more traditional school districts in those urban communities. I have been fighting tooth and nail for our regional school districts to have adequate representation and to have a seat at the table. We are meeting with the chair of education. We've been in conversations with Desi. We've been in conversations with everybody that we need to be in conversations with. But what I truly need and what I ask of all of you, as people who are invested in this community, who want great school systems, we know if we have great school systems, it attracts families to come into the community, and if families are moving into the community, then it helps the overall tax base, contributes to the tax base, has people coming to your local business, and keeps your tax burden lower, right? So we all want good schools. But what I need from you is I need your insight, I need your input, I need your ideas, I need your concerns, I need your challenges, because we have limited time. We're looking to hopefully have a bill out within the next couple of months. We're trying to get something done through this budget season, May, June, what have you. So I am asking for everybody in this region to please keep in touch with your local elected officials. Let us know what your concerns are so we can get them implemented, because this might be our only bite at the apple for several years, and it's really, really important that we get it right and that we make these changes that need to be made the right way at the time that we have to be able to make these significant changes. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for bearing with the long drawn out explanations of how state government is working right now and what we're up to. And I also want to, if I can, George, if you don't mind, if we just want to open it up for questions, and if people have questions, I'll invite Jim back up. And we're happy to hear from you about your concerns, your challenges, or your stories, your successes. Positive comments are always welcome too, by the way. I just want to throw that out there.
I'll try to help you with that also. Thank you.
Here you go, son.
Thank you, Jim.
Good evening, my name's Maureen Lynch, I'm the superintendent of Whittier Tech, and I'm also a proud Salisbury resident. So thank you for the wall. I live on Carter Ave, and I've been able to drive up and down my street this winter, so that's been a real plus. When we're talking about education, you know, there's this piece of me that thinks it's just not fair that the kids of Triton aren't getting the same education as the kids in Lexington. And there's such disparity between communities, and we're really doing our students a disservice by not making sure that everyone has a solid, really good education. And I've met with both of you, and you've both been very willing to listen. The special ed costs in our school districts are out of sight. And you know, if you have a student that's medically, has medical issues, that's not being taken up by health insurance, that's being taken up by the school districts. So one student in a school district could cost $200,000, $300,000. That is a budget buster. You know, I listened to the hearing on Friday, I had it in my earbud, I did hear your question to the Patriots, I was like, good going. You did throw in that you were a Villanova football player, so good for you. But I just, you know, I hope that we really do something, because it is time for this formula to really be looked at. In this whole area, I represent 11 cities and towns at Whittier. Every single one is losing student population. So this area, we're really losing our student population. So the foundation formula can't just be about student enrollment anymore. So that's all that I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. We love Whittier, by the way. Thanks, Maureen. I couldn't agree more with you, first and foremost. The per pupil issue in the foundation budget formula review has been a significant challenge for all the regional school districts, and they have approached us and said, basically, the proposal that's currently on the table right now for anyone who's not in education wants to fund schools based on a per pupil basis. And that is problematic for some of our regional school districts, because what happens is sometimes enrollment might go down in some of these regional school districts and in some of the smaller communities, more rural communities. Urban school districts seem to love the new formula. I happen to be somebody that represents a very unique district in that I represent an urban population. I have Methuen and Haverhill, and then I also have more rural communities. So I'm hearing it from both sides, and I'm actually grateful for it because it gives me both perspectives to bring to the table when we go back to Beacon Hill to talk about this. So I understand both sides of it, and it allows us to have that conversation. But I absolutely agree that it can't just be that, because that's not an adequate solution for the regional school districts or for just the smaller, more rural communities that might not see an increase in their population size every year. We need to understand that when you see a little bit of a decrease in an enrollment, you can't just get rid of a classroom and say, well, you know, we just cut that class out and saved, you know, 50 grand by not employing a teacher, and it's one class. It doesn't work that way. It spreads out across the board. And like Maureen was saying, with the special education costs rising and the differences in special education now from what it was when they first did this funding formula, we really need to get more creative at the state level, and that's where your partnership is going to come in with us. We've been meeting with everybody, and we've been taking all of the ideas. Any idea that you have, there is no, like you remember back in school, there's no dumb question, no question's a stupid question, no idea's a stupid idea. We want to hear it all, because the recommendation right now is, you know, look at it on a per pupil basis, and that's just not something that's going to benefit every school district in a fair and equitable manner, so we need to do better. And please, call our office if you have any ideas, and we look forward to those conversations.
We'll just also add another quick thing. We all realize that we need more money, okay? But it's, more money just isn't the sole answer. We've got to be careful about how that money is distributed, because we only have we have a fixed amount, a finite amount of money in which we can spend. So let's say it's $1 billion to $2 billion. How are we going to distribute that money throughout all of the communities in the Commonwealth equitably? And that's what we want to make sure that we're doing. One of the pieces of legislation, for instance, says, okay, you're going to get a minimum amount, but it's a percentage of that minimum amount. And also, I believe Triton's in a hold harmless district, right? It's one of the 241 out of the 300, or not 351 because some of those are regional like Triton, but in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it's in a hold harmless district. So if that provision is removed, you know, we end up getting less than the minimum that we're getting right now. So it might say, okay, look, we're going to put, you know, X amount of dollars into education, and this is how much it's going to be funded by. But at the end of the day, Salisbury's still at the short, it has the short end of the stick, and that's what we want to make sure that we avoid. So it's, you know, like the senator had indicated, the chairs of the committee are paying very, very close attention to this. In fact, I understand Chairwoman Peisch in the House has been spending a lot of time actually moving throughout the Commonwealth and speaking with various educators and superintendents and officials about this very issue. And this is something that, too, we had discussed the other day, and we're going to be looking to try to get Triton in to have a little conversation about this in the near future. So, thank you.
And obviously our vocational schools too.
Yes, and our vocational schools, which, by the way, are doing a tremendous job. So,
Is there any way we could get a new school?
wouldn't that be wonderful?
It'd be beautiful.
Bring you down to talk to the MSBA.
Bring you over to Amesbury. You want to chat with those guys a little bit?
Sure, we will.
I'll take it.
I'm trying.
George, any other questions?
I'll give you an easy one. I took a trip down North End Boulevard last week. I had to go to my chiropractor immediately thereafter. What's the schedule for reconstruction of North End Boulevard?
Senator, would you love to answer?
You see this?
It's the upper branch of the legislature.
I was wondering about that road too, and you know, I just got elected to represent Salisbury, so I've been learning from Jim about all the work they've been doing. So I will start. I am happy to take this question. Thank you. I have actually been meeting. I just met with your Board of Selectmen on this, and we talked about this. And Neil Harrington was great. Manager Harrington was great on this, on breaking this down for us. I said, "What's up with this road?" I drive. I said the same thing. I drive down. I'm like, "There's potholes everywhere." You know, I mean, this is like the main strip where people come. Speed bumps. That's what it was. So. So I heard about some of the politics of this, and I don't live in Salisbury, so I'm relying on you for this information. And what I've been hearing is, you know, some people don't actually want the road to be fixed because they think people are going to speed up and down the road. So that's so that's a local thing that I'm sure you guys can all work out and have those conversations with some of your neighbors, and I'll leave that to you. But all kidding aside, the education that your town manager and your local board of selectmen provided me was invaluable in learning that you are looking into some designs. We are going to be having, is it a public meeting is going to be happening? Good, so there's a public meeting that is just around the corner, and I'm gonna ask our board of selectmen for the date on that. Do we have a date yet? Okay, so what's gonna happen is that there is going to be a public meeting held on that road's reconstruction, repaving, whatever needs to be done, improvements along that corridor. You're all invited to attend. It's a public meeting. Make sure you put it on your calendar and that you are there if you are concerned about it, Wayne. I know you're going to be there. And make your voices be heard, because the Department of Transportation will be there, and they'll be hearing about the different concerns so that they can try to come up with a design. Once they come up with a design, they can then come back to the state and they can try to work with us to try to get some funding and work with the governor's administration to try to secure that funding to get that road on the list. But that design, I found out, has to be done first before we can move forward with even trying to get the funding secured. And what has to happen before the design's done is that public hearing has to go hand in hand with that. So that's what we're looking at for that road. But I agree with you. It was my first questions when I came in. What's going on with this road right here? So I'm excited that we're going to be getting right to work on it.
I'm going to just pick up on what Wayne said. On a larger scale, transportation in general in the whole state. I'm sorry. Just to pick up on what Wayne said, look at transportation in general in the whole state. We're living with a transportation system that was designed and built in the mid-20th century, and the federal government did a great job of having the vision to come up with an interstate highway system. Now the federal government's walked away from it all. So what's going on in the state to improve what we've got? Highways, bridges, commuter rail, regional rail, north-south rail link, all those things. What's happening in the legislature now to improve all of that? Because we know we're not going to get anything out of the federal government anymore. That's it. Thank you.
Let me have that for a minute. Yeah. So Wayne, keep up the subscription for the chiropractor.
And great garage.
Wayne, I know a good attorney. I'll give you my number on the way out. Anyway, no, so great questions about transportation. Transportation is something that the governor, the administration, the big Polito administration has really been focused in on. And I know they've made a significant investment. You know, when we bring the kids in their budget recommendation, one of the things that I didn't talk about when I first came up before the senator is that I've been recently appointed to House Ways and Means. Selectwoman McDonald said, boring. We sat down. I'm sorry. I love that stuff. So before I became an attorney, I was a business undergrad, went to grad school for business. I love numbers. It reminds me of the Amesbury Finance Committee that I served on when I was on the city council over there. And you get the real in-depth and detail analysis of, you know, your different levels of government. And one of the things that the governor has really focused in on since taking office is making sure that we improve our transportation system. Transportation means roads and bridges. We were able to work together in the House and get some language in the bond bills coming up to make repairs to some of the infrastructure throughout the district. And I can't tell you how many times I've called our Mass DOT liaison about, you know, the roads in Salisbury. So those issues are being focused on this legislative cycle, as they have been in the past. And we're looking forward to make Lou some significant improvements, and Ray and Wayne some significant improvements in the area. It's just not, I mean, it's not just germane to Salisbury. You know, Newburyport, you're driving over the Gillis Bridge, oh my goodness. I came home before tonight's meeting, I got off the road from Arlington, parked in my driveway, and my neighbor was walking her dog down the street, and she came right up the driveway, and she says, "When is Monroe Street," formerly Salisbury, Fred, "when is Monroe Street gonna get fixed? It looks like it just got hit by a meteor shower." So we spent a good 20 minutes talking about that. Yeah, right, Christine? I'll tell you, we gotta get it done. So these are things that we're really working hard on to make sure that our roads are improved, and that we're working with our local officials to make sure that holes are filled and roads are resurfaced and they're on schedule to be repaved during the summer season. Freeman's clapping, so that must mean it's over.
Almost. Just because I have something quick to say. Lou, transportation, education, infrastructure, public safety. Substance addiction, absolutely. But the cornerstone of these are the cornerstones of what we do in state government. These are the things, these are the priorities in state government where the money should be going. And absolutely, substance use disorder, huge, huge. Mental health. But when we say in the legislature that we're going to put money in a certain area and then we don't, that's problematic. And that's what's happening, Lou. And I don't like to be the one to say it, but it's the reality. We say that we're going to take money and that we're going to appropriate it to certain areas, and then what ends up happening? The final version of the bill comes forward, and all of the revenue that we generated through the taxes that we're taking in, that you're all paying, ends up going where? To the general fund. And then where does it end up going? Towards whatever the needs happen to be for that year, based on whoever the leadership happens to be in the state on in that given year.
Well, remember too, mass health is 40% of our state budget. It's 40% of our $42 billion budget. So there's a lot of money going into mass health in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Agreed. So when we talk about transportation and all of these other things, and obviously there are other things going on. We have veterans, we have seniors, we have everything, but talking about some of these major issues that we're all talking about that are important to us, when we go and vote on the things that are important to you, when we take tax votes, anything revenue, any fees that we're taking in, these transparency issues that were happening with this fund with Salisbury Beach, it's our job as state legislators, as your state government, as your public officials, to make sure that we are spending the money that we are getting from our communities appropriately in a way that's transparent to you, in a way that's consistent with the way that we said we were going to spend it. The marijuana bill. We had a marijuana bill recently, passed on the ballot. The state legislature ended up taking it up. And what did the state legislature say they were going to do with the tax revenue? Do you remember? And, yes, and they also said that they were going to take a certain percentage.
Give it to horse racing.
Right, they were going to spend it. They were going to spend it in certain areas, and addiction prevention was one of them, right? But we made some commitments on where we were going to spend it. And at the end of the day, what ended up happening is that revenue all became subject to appropriation and ended up getting spent on other things. This is the problem. This is the problem when it comes to why we're not seeing adequate education funding. We said we were going to raise revenue, we said we were going to spend it in a certain area, and then we didn't. We said we were going to use certain taxes to pay for transportation, roads, and bridges. No. If we support this fair share tax amendment that people are talking about right now, whether you support it, whether you oppose it, if it passes, it's supposed to go towards education and transportation. We need to make sure that if this passes, that that's where the funding actually goes. Because we do have a transportation crisis in this state. We do have an education crisis in this state. We have a housing crisis in this state. Substance use disorder, mental health services. Our seniors are in need of health care. Our veterans are in need of services. The list goes on and on and on. And I think that the way that we can improve in all of those areas is by keeping our word to the taxpayer and making sure that if we say we are going to spend money in a specific area and you entrust us with your tax dollar, that we repay you by doing what we said we were going to do and investing in those areas that we promised to invest in. So thanks for the question, Lou.
So thank you, Representative Kelcourse, Senator Dioglio. We really appreciate it. I'm always amazed by perspective. We have two politicians standing up here apologizing for how much time they're taking. I got more politicians sitting over here going like this and like this. And all of us are thinking, wow, it's 5 minutes of 8 and we're almost out of here. So you just never know. So again, thank you all for coming. We look forward to seeing you at our future events. And everybody please drive home safely.
Glory survive.
Our final speaker, and thank you so much for your patience. You have been in our part of the district so many times during election time, and since you've been elected, Senator Diana DiZoglio has been an incredible advocate for our part of the district, incredibly responsive. I emailed her yesterday morning about a budget amendment in the Senate, got an answer in about an hour and a half. Usually you're about half an hour, so you're slowing down a little bit. But she's been a really strong voice for us, so thank you for being here and welcome.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Ed. Good morning, Democrats. All right, good. You're still with me. You're still with me. What an informative morning this has been. What great guest speakers this morning. Sheriff, thank you so much. We in the legislature really appreciate all that you do on the public safety side. I'm super happy that the annual report is done. I look forward to looking over that. That's really helpful to legislators when we go through the budget process, understanding your priorities, your needs, what you need for the future. Thank you also for the breakdown about the opioid epidemic and about how that is impacting not only inmates but also those who are leaving, and working on the rate of recidivism, highlighting that as something that's important. I know I've spoken to a lot of you on a regular basis, and I feel like I know a lot of you so personally that we have our conversations on the phone. A lot of you will text me with anything that you need. If you don't have my number, please get it. Ed has it. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm very tangible. I'm very accessible. I'm the local person here. That's why I'm going last. I had the time to hang around because I live just down the road from here. But I loved what the sheriff said so much about reducing the rate of recidivism, because helps to lead into my conversation that I want to have with you about the state budget that we are working on currently. The House just voted on their version of the budget for the entire state. The governor had put out his proposal. The House of Representatives just voted on their proposal. And now we in the state Senate are going to be taking up our budget. in a little over a week. But we did just have our budget released, and it is a bold, very progressive budget, and I am really excited about that. That's before all of the amendments. So Senate President Spilka, Chair Mike Rodrigues did a tremendous job at identifying the needs and priorities that are our shared needs and priorities statewide, and really taking the time to listen to all of us who have unique priorities and challenges in our communities. And one of the things that the sheriff was talking about was reducing the rate of recidivism for people that are leaving the criminal justice system, going out, trying to find work, trying to find a place to live, and just being unsuccessful because they don't have the resources that they need to be able to succeed. So what ends up happening? They go right back into the system. And I'm proud to say that in this upcoming budget, I've been working with the chair of Ways and Means for a new line item that was included in the rollout of the budget, so we didn't have to fight for an amendment, to create a pilot program that was started through working with the United Teen Equality Center. It's going to start in Essex County, but the sheriff's endorses. That will be a pilot program to implement mental health services, allow social workers, allow people who can guide with career opportunities and all sorts of those things, for those people to come into the prison before the inmates are released and start working with them during their time there and get them set up so that when they leave, they have an opportunity as they're walking out the door. So we're allocating $4 million towards that pilot program for this upcoming year, and I'm really excited about that. We couldn't do it without the partnership with the sheriffs and others, so thank you for working with us on that. Thank you. Other things that I know are of tremendous importance to this region in particular, where we have the regional school districts, and more rural communities, is the issue of education. And I know that I've spoken with you again many times about this, and those of you who read the paper have heard about what's going on with this. But right now, we are fighting hard in the Senate to make sure that we are adequately funding education. And the governor came in with numbers that were just not adequate. The House also came in. They did a little bit better, but still with numbers that just weren't adequate. So the Senate bumped up the numbers for public education across the board for the state, $50 million more than what even the House proposed in their budget. That is all going to trickle down in a really positive way to our communities here and make it a little bit easier to provide those resources that we so desperately need, especially in our more rural, suburban, and regional school districts. The work and make it a little bit easier to provide those resources that we so desperately need, especially in our more rural, suburban, and regional school districts. The work
because he can't do it. I have zero confidence that this is going to work on Saturday. He never, ever, ever should have promised that we could do this. And then not secure someone to be here to fucking do it on Saturday.
I believe everybody would. If you did not get my copy, I emailed the agenda to you, or my report to you. If you didn't get that, then let me know, and I'll make sure that I'll get an update on your email address. And that way we can success.
All the email addresses are on the Reggie
I'll-
updated.
Yeah, right, and
contact
I'll
sheet.
double check that. I used an old list that I had sent out that was missing a
Oh.
couple, but.
You
I-
mailed it tonight.
I emailed it
I
tonight.
I see it here.
Good, oh, good. All right. And that's the bulk of the correspondence.
Okay, great. Any questions? We can move right into the Harbor Master's report.
All right, I guess you've got an update on the demolition for the floats. We had voted on that, but I guess since the sailboats have been left off, we will discuss the update later. I've received no update on the potential for credit card transactions automatically that the finance department had offered to enable us to take transient boaters. Coincidentally, we did have a transient boater come in this weekend, and he called me back this morning and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't find anybody, left town, and where do I mail a check?" So he's going to mail us a check at $1 a foot for 2 nights. And that should be an easy deposit for that. And I've texted and emailed the candidate to do some CAD work for us for the rock riprap wall on the west end of the parking lot, and I'm trying to track her down to see if I can get an appropriate drawing to get that done before the floats get hauled out. This weekend, I'm going to be re-stenciling a 15-minute tie-up on the yellow stripe out front and try and get the whole yellow and the stencil in place. I guess latex generally needs an annual update. Yeah, some of those and did a new exercise with Reggie's free firewood sign. Cut up a whole bunch of the logs that have been hauled up from the river, and they're going in smaller loads. We've had a couple of guys come by and just taken everything that was there every once in a while. So I expect that it'll be gone in a week or two. And I emailed out the schedule for the rest of the season to all the assistants so that they could comment on any conflicts or if anybody's going to be away. I wanted to get that done ahead of time. So that's the bulk of the Harbor Master projects. I have not been down to move into the Shellfish Constable activity unless there are questions.
Nope. Go ahead.
All right, I'm planning to get back this month to do an August sample for Blackwater River to get some data that we can compare with the environmental police and our lab, see that they're giving us good numbers. I did not get down there in July. I did get May and June results. They were both the same. My suspicion as I read the report is that the units are different and that the environmental marine fisheries, they report on the number of fecal coliform units per deciliter, and the local lab reports per milliliter. So there's a factor of 10 that they differ by. I mean, the ratios are going to have to be the same, and the ratios are always appropriate and satisfactory, but if I can get deciliter data from the same lab, then we'll have the same units and it'll be comparable numbers and easier to compare. I was overly optimistic when I received the first ones because I didn't notice the different unit report.
So if you fix the math, are we in, is it looking good or not?
It looks good. It looks just as good. I mean, the requirement is less than 100 fecal coliform units or 110 or 12 per deciliter, tenth of a liter. And they're doing it per milliliter, and they're saying the count is less than 1. Tenth to a milliliter, so maybe, if I'm off by a factor of 100, we're still less than 100 units.
Okay.
So, but I'll try and get them on the same scale, and that'll
It
work.
shouldn't matter. whether they're on the same scale or not, they can do the math too.
They can, but because I'm going different agencies, I'd like to get them all, able to read the same scale.
So no reason why they can't be open.
In my opinion, none, except the marine fisheries may want a few months of their own testing schedule, so. In theory,
The
this
counts
winter
go-
would be enough time.
The counts go up and down based on how often it rains.
How often it rains, I would imagine bird population would be a factor. Summer temperatures may
Right.
increase the
Summer
bacteria count.
Right.
There is suspicion that one or two people may not be plugged into town sewerage. If that's a factor, the summertime would be a larger number, but May and June have not shown that yet, so.
Good.
So, and the only, from all of the July and August reports, July reports, the citations that have been mailed out, so far I've only received one call, and that was just another boater who sold the boat. But a documented boat, even though they reported to the Coast Guard that they had sold it, the records still reported back to the previous owner. So the new owner has not changed the name or the hailing port, and it's not evident. We'll have to double check the new owner. She's given me the new owner name. She's mailing me the bill of sale to make sure we can track that person down. So we have his name. We'll be able to see that the appropriate person is chased.
Well, it would either have to be redocumented or registered.
Right.
So what did you give the ticket under?
I believe the ticket was given under the name Isabella,
Okay, but
and
do
the
you...
hailing port, and that would be
Oh, so you just take the
reported
boat
on-
name and the hailing port?
Right.
You don't usually take the registration number or the documentation
If
number?
it's documented, then all we have to go is the boat name and the hailing port,
Right.
and there wouldn't be a registration number. So I'm presuming that with no change in the name or hailing port, that it was not registered. More commonly, we find out new boaters don't always register
But it
in it.
would be redocumented or
Should have been, but
have to be, right?
it didn't check.
Documentation is very slow catching up to entering the data onto the website.
Oh.
Yeah.
You could be months behind.
Oh.
They are months behind usually. So you might
Although
still,
it's
it might
sold
still be
in,
documented onto the previous owner's name. even
Sold
though
in
he's processed.
2017, so it should have been handled.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's not that slow.
all right.
What do we do with the vote now?
Oh, we'll chase the new owner.
Who's got the ticket?
Glenn would have the ticket.
No. Who do you write the ticket to?
Oh, we wrote it to William and Pat Muse,
they're
and the
previous
new
owners?
owner would be Robert Romeo. So we'll chase Mr. Romeo.
So he should get the ticket.
Yep. I worked it out with Glenn tomorrow. But that's a fairly common that boats sell, and the old owners don't very often volunteer to pay somebody else's ticket.
Nope. Okay. You don't have any updates on the revenue?
I wanted to get here early enough to log in. I've been having some trouble with my laptop, so.
Last Saturday it was a little over 75,000.
Oh, good.
But what I will do is when I email out the names, I'll get a current data. And I'll fill in this hole for your report. Yep.
Okay. Did you have anything, you have also attached a letter here for Avante 2.
That was, that was on.
This
the
from last?
report.
Oh, that was a copy in your mailbox.
Oh, okay. So we're all set with that then? Yeah.
Yeah, I did, I sent the last letter certified. I've talked to Sergeant Sforza about the process to get into small claims court. He's given me some of the paperwork. I'm gonna get that to him tomorrow, and we'll will chase the owner and his mother because she is indicated as a co-owner.
No?
And she's the one who has signed the return receipt requested, so she might be willing to cover for her son.
Or at least cooperate. Okay. Anything else for the Harbor Master's report?
No?
All right, move on to old business. The emergency warning lighting, has that been resolved?
Yes. It's installed.
Installed,
Working.
up and running, everything works the way you want it to?
Invoice has been signed.
All right. I didn't pull that off of there because I couldn't remember.
Fine, yep.
All right, and I guess we can talk about the old floats and the boats and cleaning up of the boat storage facility. We have a new,
Yeah, as of the last meeting, you had asked me to go back to the contractor to find out what he would charge to get rid of the boats that are down there, the 25-foot sailboat, two 15-foot drop keel sailboats. And I went back and got a revised quote. It would add $1,300 to the original,
1,700.
excuse me?
1,700.
$1,700 to the original quote of $6,300 to make it a total of $8,000. So, I mean, I also went to a person that pulls boats. You know, you get an ad on the Facebook page, and he charges basically $25 a foot. He'll come in and pull a boat out. That equates to about $800 for the two 15-footers, and he couldn't take the sailboat. So that, you know, we can stay with leave the boats in the yard and stay with the $6,300, or come up with the $8,000 to get rid of everything down there, and then we're done.
We were originally told that 25-foot sailboat was the property of the Boys and Girls Club.
That was, they had agreed that we could use that, and they would try to auction it, but I've seen
No,
little
when we
activity.
moved it in there, we paid to move it in there because it was their boat, and we did that as a donation. 7 years ago.
Might be.
So what are they doing to pay for disposing of their boat?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So, is it true Mr. Harrison would not dispose of the 25-footer?
no, he will.
He
That's
will,
in the,
yeah.
it's part of the
Okay,
quote.
that's in the 8,000.
It's part of the quote, yeah.
Right, but Reggie wants the Y to pay for their share. That he wants
The
them to
Boys
pay.
The
and
Boys
Girls
and
Club.
Girls Club to pay for their, it's their
Right,
boat.
That's what I mean, the boys,
Well,
can they pay for half?
they have not been forthcoming with a lot of their obligations to the tax collector, so I think it would be difficult. In terms of ownership, the boat's never been in the water since we moved it out of, I think Jocelyn moved it as a courtesy to help out,
We paid for that. There were no
We did?
courtesy there.
oh, good, thank you.
I want it understood by this commission that we absolutely, positively, never again accept any orphan boats that show up on our property. We're
I have
getting
no
stuck
issue
for
with
this
that.
one. We gotta get rid of it. We gotta clean that property up. I agree with that. But, boy,
Okay, well, can I make a motion? Are we done
Yes,
discussing?
you can make a
I
motion.
can make a motion to accept the $8,000 bid to get rid of all the docks, the boats and everything.
Okay,
I'd second.
all right. Before we vote, is there any further discussion?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we need to do to support this effort. We need to get the large trailer out of there, to get it out of our way. Can that be brought over to Rings Island and put up by that building, the old fire barn there?
we can get it out of here, Charlie. When you give us
It would
a
just
day or
be for
so
the
notice when
duration
it's
of the
gonna
job.
start.
Just for the duration of the job.
Give us a day's notice, we'll get it someplace else.
Okay,
Either Ray or I will.
We could, we could leave it at the pier for a couple of days.
sure, okay. So I will let you, you know, right now, the date that he's given me is September 5th. I'm not going to be here. I'm not available for that date. So if somebody else wants to open up and kind of supervise the job, that's fine. If not, I'll work with them to extend the date into the next week, so that when I can be around. That's.
Would you like to be there?
I would like to be there. I would, I would like to make sure that's done and done. I mean, I have great faith in the company.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that everything gets done right, Had conversations, with both the owner and the son that runs the company now, and they know exactly what they've got to do. The other thing that we need to do the night before would be to block off that parking lot on that side, so that nobody can get in there and park and be in their way once they come in, because they're bringing in probably a good-sized excavator and, machines to.
Yellow tape.
Do we need to, are you talking
Yeah.
about the parking lot in front of the gate?
Just
Not the one on the other side?
No, just in front of the gate.
So they're not gonna need to pull in and back up?
Nope,
and-
nope, just the parking lot in front of the gate. The other side is fine, and no.
Because you
no
can
issue
always
with it.
park a couple cars, your cars, on the other side and save the spaces.
Oh, yeah,
If you needed to.
yeah.
Because that parking lot does fill up.
Yes, it does. Surprisingly, he would have liked to have done the job last Saturday. I mean, it was last minute. He came and called me up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he said, I'd like to do that job tomorrow. And I said, well, I don't think we can do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got to coordinate getting rid of it, moving the trailer, taping off the property. So he's come back with a date of September 5th. I'll be happy to.
Well, maybe he wants to do it before that, if you're gonna
If
be
he can do it
around.
before then, I'm off on the 3rd,
Yeah.
and I'm back on the 8th. So
Okay.
unfortunately, I'll be up in Maine, so.
So that 25-foot sailboat, that doesn't have any value? Nobody wants it? Can't give it to anyone?
It's probably full of water. It's probably full of water. Have you looked inside that thing in the last?
I did 2 months ago. I saw some, but I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll put a hole in it to get the water out.
Who do those
That'd be a
stands
good
go on?
idea. He's got to drop he's got
The
to,
stands would have
knock it
been
all apart
at
anyway to get it
Wilson's, and I think we've kind of brought them along. So if Jocelyn charged us, I would imagine that they're theirs.
now, Ray, you said there was a couple of the drop keels that you wanted to keep.
Right.
Could you please mark?
Well, I'll
the
get
bad
them.
stuff?
I'll get them out of there. We'll
Either
find
that or
them.
just mark the
Yep.
stuff that you.
Put an X.
Yeah,
I
put
had
an X
somebody.
on
I
the
had somebody
targets.
down there 2 days ago, and he said I'd love to. He's just going to confirm with his.
Yeah. Well, anything that we know that's junk, let's just put a big X on it so that there's no confusion and.
Well, whatever's left, whatever's there when he comes, it's all getting scrapped, so. He's not gonna,
Yep.
All right, any further discussion?
We
Reggie?
haven't decided when we're gonna do it. Gonna wait till Charlie comes back so he can supervise the.
Well, we have a motion, we're just having further discussion right now. We haven't voted yet, so. I'm fine with doing it anytime you guys wanna do it.
Yeah.
But,
There's
you
no
know,
problem doing it further into September.
You could even tell them, if he's, because a lot of times they have jobs that get delayed or
Right.
cancel out, or they can jump, I don't know, what is it,
I'll
say
call
how
him.
many
I'll
days?
call him. I'll call him tomorrow.
It doesn't really say how long it's gonna take them, but,
After Labor Day, I'll start teaching out at Triton, so I'll be unavailable 5 days a week. But I could move a trailer out of there the night before if I knew.
Yeah. Okay.
all right, do we need to restate the motion, or are we all set?
Motion is to accept the $8,000 bid. We
Yes.
don't need to restate it. They understand it, I guess.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. All right. New business. I don't think there's any other old business that I forgot.
No, I
Okay.
think we've covered everything.
New business. Reggie, you had a appropriation that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, we've got a condition with our patrol boat in that the lower compartment and the main compartment there is no drainage in them. So whenever we try to wash the deck, where they have put sponges and try to sop up the water. So what we'd like to do, one of the guys suggested that we buy a battery-powered wet dry vac. I think Craftsman and DeWalt and a few other companies make them. So that's one item on my $400 request. The other item would be a power drill, 3H drive of the same manufacturer as the
Same
vacuum
battery.
cleaner, so that we get the 2 batteries and the charger that come with the drill kit. And because the vacuum cleaner doesn't normally come with a drill kit,
Right.
I mean with a battery. And then also a few small items like a set of drills and a set of drivers to go with that drill kit. The reason for purchasing the drill, in addition to the fact that we need the batteries for the vacuum cleaner, is that for like 10 years, we've used my tools primarily to build all our docks, moor and puller, and do all our maintenance. Well, the day's coming where we're gonna see that my tools aren't available because I'm getting older. And I think it's time the department start building up some tools of its own. So that would be a first step. Hopefully later on, as I see the needs, I'll come back for a few more dollars to buy some more tools, so the department has its own maintenance
And do you have
tools.
a place to store them?
We have the shed, and the one, we thought that we'd be able to charge the battery with the little power inverter that's on the boat now. So while the boat was running, we could be charging the battery during normal patrol, so it would always be available for the vacuum cleaner.
So you're gonna keep the vacuum cleaner on the boat?
We'd keep that on the boat, and the drill kit would be kept, except for the charger, would be kept over in the shed with our other tools.
Yeah, I know, I have a lot of Makita tools, the 18-volt battery system. I know they have they just came out with a vacuum this past year.
I favor DeWalt, the guy that.
And I favor Rigid,
Davis
so.
Craftsman. So I think they're all pretty equal in quality.
As long as
I like
they-
the 20-volt tools the
Yeah.
best. I think they have a tremendous amount of torque.
As long as they have what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So that request would be for $400 to buy that, the vac, the drill kit, and little drills and driver bits and accessories that go with it.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion to accept Reggie's offer to buy the drills in the back and the drill bits for $400.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Any other miscellaneous appropriations? Yes.
I'm wondering, long ago, the commission had a list of long-term projects to consider in case you ever finished the year with anything available. It was things like add some of the pile-driven posts. There are 3 posts in front of the bulkhead. We had talked about put some along the boat ramp for the floats. There's electrical upgrades for the pier. There are things that you know, they're several $1,000s, so you don't go out and do them very quickly, but you could prioritize them and say, you know, have something lined up for the spring. I mean, would you like to develop a roster of candidate projects to schedule long-term?
I still have that whole list from, what, 5 years ago,
Okay.
maybe more.
I think one thing that we could put on the list is, that I noticed myself, and this could probably be a voluntary, project, is the dock itself. The railing and the seat along the sides and everything, they really could use a coat of stain.
Yep.
So maybe that's something we could put on, and that'd be a good fall project before the winter gets in here, that we could all go down, all meet.
Yep.
I think you guys did that, what, 2 years ago?
The railing was done by the prisoners
Or
3 or 4 years ago.
the
wasn't it?
cleaning was done by Randy Hitchcock when his daughter had a wedding
And he
scheduled.
cleaned the deck. Pressure cleaned the deck because his daughter was gonna have a wedding ceremony out there. But then we had the prisoners do the railings, stain the railings, and that's a work project. But that had to be 4 years ago, maybe 3.
Really?
Yeah, I just happened to notice that
Yep.
was
He
starting
bought
to
the
peel.
stain. But it
No,
would
that'd be
be a
good, it'd be good
volunteer
to
project if we could.
preserve the wood.
Why don't I circulate the existing list, and we discuss it at the next meeting and add
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So I'll send a
I don't
copy
know
of the
that we
existing
have,
list out to
I
everybody.
don't know that we have a whole lot of extra money this year.
Right.
Yeah,
I
at
don't think
least
we're
let's
gonna
look
have a
at
lot
it.
of money once we
Get it
start
fresh in our
looking at
minds
that.
again.
Yeah.
After the pump-out boat and this,
We're still, we paid for Avante 2, now we're paying to clean up this, this $8,000, and we got the new boat, and,
yeah, at the next meeting, I'll bring a balance of
Yeah.
what's in the account.
but it might be something more for next year. But we have a lot of new guys that probably haven't seen that list, so.
I'll send it out and we'll have it for discussion at the next meeting.
Great. All right, items not on the agenda.
I had a question on the whales down the beach. I was on the beach Saturday morning, Sunday morning. The boats following the whales down there were unbelievably close. Everyone's down there. I'm gonna call the harbor master at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm standing there, well, I guess you're gonna call him, but I didn't know what kind of communication do you, like, is a boat following, like, I got the name of the boat, with my binoculars off of it. The boat following it, can you call them up on channel 16? Do they have a,
They should, yeah, but if you have the name of the boat, we can send them a ticket.
No,
You can send them a ticket, but how can you, I mean,
They're allowed
100
to
feet,
be
right?
within 100 yards.
150,
Well, this,
100
100
yards.
yards, or 300
Well,
yards if it's a right whale.
I tell you what, they were breaching, and we shot, the whale actually hit the boat. Not real high, but he grazed the boat, breaching. And of course, it's 8 o'clock in the
Because
morning.
The
but-
stripers are in and they're fishing in that area too, and that's the thing, there's so many herring in the bay there, along the thing, and the boats are fishing stripers along there, so that's,
They were all following.
yeah.
They were clearly following a fly
We
bridge.
received a Saturday call that somebody was continuously following
Yeah.
it down the beach, and I
Yeah.
think,
And we responded, but by the time we got there, there was nobody in sight.
Yeah. And I get the name of the boat.
good,
It's called the Seminole.
Seminole,
That's the one that's the one we got the call on
Yeah,
Okay.
Saturday.
yeah.
Got a call.
I was with the people, so I said, I know these guys aren't there yet. but-
Was it you that called me?
No, no, I
Somebody
was,
called me and I didn't get their name. I thought it was the lifeguard, but they said it was about the
no.
Seminole.
And then the
was
next day,
harassing
he was
whales.
there again. He had a big fly bridge. He's right on top of this whale. I mean,
at a minimum, if we send him a warning, then he's aware that
Right.
we're aware.
Yeah, I think it's a
warning
good
would be
idea.
a good,
because they do circle around breaking rocks there, they pull a circle. It's quite a show,
They're becoming very popular.
So it's 100 feet and then
yards,
100 yards.
100
yards,
yards.
football field.
So,
That's a long way.
right,
That's not close.
right, right.
But of course, if he's there fishing and the whale comes up next to him, that's not his
Yeah,
fault.
no, these guys they're all chasing them, trying to get shots. All right, well, that was just a question. I wasn't sure,
Do you want to, does anybody want to make a public service announcement while we're on the air about the whales?
Yeah, I mean, a public service announcement would be in the interest of the whales. We'd love to have them come back, and certainly, we don't want the boaters to be harassing them. You'd like to think that the whales would be responsive to a more receptive population, and we may conclude that harassment will make it less likely they come back. So, you'd like to think that the whales will be responsive to a safer environment.
Do you want to restate somebody want to restate the rules? 100, yeah.
Yeah, the boats are not able to follow within 100 yards of any whales, and was it 200 yards for right?
300 for a right.
300 for right whales.
Endangered, yeah.
Yeah. So, just imagine that you have end zone tickets, and you're watching the team score in the other end for an extra point, and that's a safe distance to be away from a
It's a
whale.
long ways. Yeah. Okay. Any other items not on the agenda? Any comments? No visitors tonight? All right. I want to set a date for the next meeting, 1 month out.
Yeah.
Today's the 15th. That's the third Thursday. We'll do the third Thursday in September is the 19th. Is that good for everybody?
Good for me.
Works for me.
Okay. Next meeting,
We could have a celebration with a clean MBTA lot.
That's right.
oh, the next meeting will be the 19th of September. If there are no further items to discuss, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second?
All in favor? Unanimous at 7:35.
We need sort of a new generation of folks to step forward and get involved with Salisbury. We need people to serve on boards. We need people ultimately, at some point when the good members of the board decide to retire, to run for selectmen. And we've had, as I said before, a lot of new people moving into town, retired folks, many of them from the Newburyport, Amesbury area, Merrimack Valley area, you know, empty nesters, young professionals, people moving here into the new developments to raise their families. They need to not just live here, but they need to invest themselves into the community by volunteering, getting on the boards, and being a part of the solution, being part of the great things that we're doing here, so that long after I'm gone and some of the other folks that have given all of their time and effort over the last 10 or 15 years, they'll be able to pass the baton to the next generation of folks who will continue to make Salisbury a great place.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. I'd like to call the meeting of the Salisbury Board of Selectmen for August 12th, 2019 to order. This meeting is being televised and recorded on SCTV, Channel 12 and 18. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin, I'd like to, on behalf of the entire town of Salisbury, extend our condolences to the family of Ted Irvin. Ted was extremely kind and generous and gave a great deal to the town. And I don't know, Chuck, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Well, yeah, I would actually. Ted was very involved in the town, from the planning board on to the Lions, Council on Aging. He was truly involved in the community. He was very good at it, too.
Yeah, he gave a great deal, and on behalf of the whole town, we are extremely appreciative. Thank you. First order of business, acceptance of minutes of July 15th, 2019.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Old business, there is none. New business, license renewals, there are none. New licenses, Debbie's Leather Forever, 2 Collins Street.
Not here.
Motion
The
to-
applicant here?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, Willie?
Yeah, no, I was just curious as to the, what it was gonna look like.
You have questions? Or? No?
Just kind of curious about the location and how it's gonna set up, if it's gonna be like a flea market type thing.
The applicant was requested to attend, but apparently she's not here.
Could be tardy, but, special event permit, Salisbury Days, September 27th through September 29th, 2019.
I guess you'll find out.
She's just working.
No, when she sets up.
It was my understanding that Lisa Pearson might have been here to talk about this, but we may be moving faster than she is. I know that that Vice Chairwoman Donna Abdallah and I and a lot of other people have been very, very involved in the committees planning Salisbury Days. It's a very important event that's coming up. We're urging everybody to note it on their calendars and to participate in it. There are quite a few events planned. One is a senior dance, if you will, on Friday night at
Prom.
the senior prom at the senior center. There's a fireman's muster, which I think is a revival of a kind of age-old tradition that will be great. There's many, many, many events. There's a cornhole tournament. So I would urge the board to support this.
Absolutely. Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. And please, to the public watching, please mark it on your calendar. License amendments, there are none. Liquor license renewals, there are none. New liquor licenses, there are none. Committee appointments. The Affordable Housing Trust, 1 vacancy for 3 years, 1 applicant, Jerry Clymer.
Motion to reappoint Jerry Clymer to the Affordable Housing Trust for a 3-year term. Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? He works very, very hard at it, does a great job. Planning Board, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term until 6/30/21. 3 applicants, John Chalizzi, Deborah Ryder, and Lisa Lane.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we put all 3 names in nomination.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll begin the voting, and we're going to begin with me. I've always believed that if you are a alternate on a board, and if you're doing a good job, and if you apply to fill a vacancy for a permanent membership, that you should be appointed to that job. So I vote for Deborah Ryder.
I'm in agreement with that, so Deborah Ryder.
Willie?
I agree with Freeman on Deborah Ryder, but I'd also like to say that it's a luxury to have 3 qualified candidates. We're
We all
very
agree on that.
fortunate, and it's very rare.
We all agree on that.
Deborah Ryder.
Unanimous. Thank you. Ms. Pearson, we just talked about Salisbury Days. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I don't know what you said, so.
I just said it was a big event. There's a committee that's been meeting and that a lot of people are working on it, and that there are several events planned, and that we would hope everybody would mark it on their calendar.
And you have the special events permit there?
We do. It's been
Yeah.
approved.
Oh, good. So I'm happy to list some of the events if people want to know.
That would be great.
So the events will start on September the 27th with a senior prom over at the Hilton Senior Center. Liz and a subcommittee have been working on making that a fun night. We've gotten lots of donations from local businesses, and they'll have a nice meal, and it should be a fun time for everybody. And then on Saturday, we're going to bring Salisbury Days down to the beach for the day. We have beach yoga planned. We have some kids, it's a scavenger hunt and/or Kids Olympics. We're still finalizing those details. We have muster planned. We have the Parks and Rec is doing their Brewfest that day, and then we're having a Salisbury Beach reunion at SSP, and we have a subcommittee with a couple of board members on that that are planning a fun-filled night of reunion gala down at SSP, so that should be pretty fun. And then on Sunday, we have a whole day full of stuff starting bright and early at 8 a.m. with a bunch of local exercise groups that are going to do exercise classes starting as early as 8:30 up till noon. We are working with the police and fire on a hot wings contest. We are having a craft fair with the chamber is working on that from 10 to 4 on the town common. All of these events on Sunday are in the square. The Historical Society is going to open up the Parsonage Museum. The Historical Commission is going to open up the Pike School. The library is planning on having a book sale, and they're working on some kids events as well. I'm hearing a rumor of maybe some mini golf or something they've got working. And we're also having a cornhole tournament that day. And we will hopefully be coming back to you at your next meeting for a liquor license for both the Brewfest as well as the Sunday event. And we do know that there's a Patriots game that day, so we're working hard on figuring out a way to be able to allow people to enjoy the Patriots game during Salisbury Days, so I'm trying to make it fun for the whole town. So it's been great. We've had a great committee that has been working on this for the last 6 or 8 months, so we're excited to bring it back.
I had a couple of questions. One is, are there opportunities for volunteers to help? And 2, are there opportunities for sponsorships?
Yes, absolutely. So we have received a large sponsor from the Institution for Savings that we're excited to say. And then we are welcome for other sponsorship opportunities. We are working on that. They can contact my office. Bart or Lisa B in the planning department can help them with that. And also volunteers. We'll need volunteers throughout the whole weekend. So anybody that would like to help out should also give us a call at the planning department, and we can help figure out what they're available and how to find them some opportunities. I don't want to be remiss, also the Boys and Girls Club is doing some kids activities that day. They have some different activities that they plan on providing too. So we have reached out to a lot of different groups in town, the Lions Club, the Boys and Girls Club, the Chamber, and really tried to get everybody to participate in this so it becomes a town-wide event. So,
Well, thank you. I think that's great. The only thing I'd like to speak to, because Ms. Abdallah and I are both on the subcommittee, is the Salisbury Sports Pub. The Reminiscence Night is, we are trying to play on the history and the reminiscences of the frolics in that era. So I believe that we're having music of that era, we're having food of that era, we're having cocktails of that era.
yeah. I believe the band is actually called the Reminiscence.
So I'm very excited. I'd like to thank the committee that's been working on it, because we have been meeting for a long time.
Yeah, and in each individual event, different groups are working on. So it's been great moving forward, and we've had a lot of input from a lot of different people to make this a success. So hopefully it will be.
It's a great opportunity to show some enthusiasm and some pride for living in the town of Salisbury. And I know that historically in the past, it was a big deal at one time, and we would like to recreate that if we could.
Oh yeah, for many years people have been asking me about it, so I was excited to be able to sort of get a group together to start moving forward with it. So.
Well, I know that you and Bart have worked very hard on it, so.
Yeah, and I think we've ordered really nice weather that day. It's in September, so it should be perfect.
So. Not a drop of rain forecast.
No, some nice golden crispy leaves will be about all you get.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harbor Commission, 1 vacancy, 3 years, 1 applicant, Reggie Santos.
I move we appoint Reggie Santos to the 1 vacancy, 3 years for the Harbor Commission.
Second.
Discussion? All I'd like to say is that Reggie has been a very, very valuable member of the Harbor Commission for a long time, that I know the Harbor Commission, Harbor Master really values his input. So I'm happy to vote in favor of that as well. So, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous.
Reggie's very knowledgeable about it. He's been there a long time.
Update presentation, building inspector.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Been about 6 months since I was last here. I did run some reports from the beginning of the year, January. I don't remember exactly when I was here. To date, we have issued 802 permits between electrical, building, plumbing, gas, and stuff like that, for a value of almost $13 million worth of work, $174,000 worth of fees. Of that, approximately a little over 400 of them are building permits that I deal with. The other 400 belong to the electrical and plumbing inspectors. Currently, we have open, active permit applications in review, 70 of them, building permits, in all of various stages, either waiting to other department approval or waiting for me to complete a review or some stage therein. Last year, actually the past 6 months, we've done almost 800 inspections as a department, 250 building. The rest were plumbing, gas, and other trades like that. Currently, in the past 6 months, we have entered into 50 written enforcement actions for various violations, zoning violations, building code violations. Currently, a number of them that have been resolved. One is off to Superior Court, 5 are in District Court, 7 are in Housing Court, and 12 have been through Housing Court and have been resolved. The rest have all been able to resolve prior to going onto the court process. So we routinely have been working with Jack as well, and this doesn't count some of the receivership stuff we've been doing with Jack, such as 95 Lafayette, the old Hutchinson's recycling. Matter of fact, I had a meeting there today with Jack and the court themselves to walk through there and look at the work that's going to be undertaken in there. There is a woman who lives in the front house who is currently in a hotel who, once they fix it up and make it safe, she'll be coming back, and we'll be doing a number of things to that property to get it functional again and cleaned up and get some of the illegal stuff out of there, and then we'll see what they decide to do after that with it. In the past 6 months, we've gotten involved in a number of properties that you guys have had some interest in, such as 63 Bridge, otherwise known as P&K's. We're currently in court with her. She is working slowly but surely towards an effort to get building permits to clean out that half-demolished building, which we found was contaminated with asbestos and sitting in the wetlands. So she's going to be going through conservation review as well in order to clean that up in a proper way and hiring proper state licensed contractors to do that. 2 Collins Street, I think we're down to just a couple of cars left up there. So we've gotten rid of a bunch of the cars, and Mr. Nichols has been cooperative in that process. Junk in the trunk, I think at 158 Bridge Road, I think that's been substantially cleaned up. It's really a lot less of the vehicles, the camper is gone and stuff like that, so we've done that. And some of you may know we've been dealing with 50 Seabrook lately, working with the police department, the health department, try to keep pushing that issue towards some sort of resolution. So we're in a lot of different places doing a lot of different things. And as you can notice, there's an awful lot going up. There's a bunch of new buildings going to come in on North End Avenue here, or North End, I'm sorry. 345 North End Boulevard, 17 and 19 North End Boulevard, all should start putting up their steel piers in the next week or two. So it's busy still down there. Does anybody have any questions I can answer?
Mr. Van Wall, I'd like to, I've said this many times, I think you have a very, very tough job, and I think you do it very well. You know, $13 million in activity, to me, is a very positive thing. I think it sends a message that, you know, Salisbury is receptive to new ideas and to development. and I think that you have worked very well with these new people that are trying to work here and build in this town. So kudos to you, and I'll let the rest of the board speak.
I have no questions. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
I do. Scott, when you're talking about 400 building permits, if it's a multi-unit building, say it's a 10-unit building, is that 10 building permits or 1 building permit?
That depends. If they're looking for individual occupancy permits, they will get individual building permits, which is common on, say, the 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, where they don't know when they're gonna sell them. If it's something larger, say, like a Tidewater type of project, where we'll really give an occupancy building at a time, then they would pull a single permit. Most people tend towards individual permits for each unit just because they're selling them and they don't know the
Okay.
sequencing of how they'll sell, so we'll have multiple permits on that.
Okay, I didn't know how that worked. And one more question, 17 and 19 North End Boulevard, is that cement building that was next to the 10s?
Yes, the one that's
Okay.
gone up and come back down again.
Yes, okay.
He should be driving piers, as a matter of fact. I gave him approval today to start driving his piers for that within the next week or two, so that should start coming along.
Great, thank you.
What's he building there?
A pair of 2 families?
Pair of 2 family.
Yeah, they'll be similar to what you see, parking underneath and a couple floors above. Each floor is a separate unit. Pretty typical stuff for what we see down that area.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Zoning Board of Appeals, Madam Chair. Welcome, Susan.
Hello, how are you tonight?
I'm well, and you?
That's good. It's been 6 months since I was here as well, so I'm reporting out from January to June 31st. So we saw 18 cases. 7 of those were variances. 1 withdrew, 1 was continued. In fact, it's tomorrow night. And we have 5 that were approved. Special permits, we had 8. 2 of them withdrew, 6 of them were approved. And then we had an administrative appeal, but before we got there, they withdrew as well, so we didn't see that. But that's everything that we saw in the last 6 months. But the best news is we have 5 full-time members and 2 alternates. There are 7 people sitting every single time we get together. And if I sound excited, it's because I am, because it's the first time since I've been on the zoning board where all the seats are taken. And it's marvelous to have a full board.
Good, good,
Good
good.
for you.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys know. You have questions for me?
Again, Madam Chair, you know, I told Mr. Van Wall I thought he had a tough job, and he did it well. I think your job's even tougher. And I've been very impressed with how fair you are, how hard you try, and I thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's been a little difficult in the last couple of ones.
You run a very good meeting,
Yes, you
Susan.
do.
Thank you.
A very good meeting.
That's why you get the big bucks, Susan.
Wow, if they just put a couple of numbers in front of the zeros.
Anybody else?
I've been to a couple of meetings, Susan, and you, Joe. You run a very good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not easy.
No.
No.
I just have to add to that, too. I'm sorry I have to be redundant, but you do. You run a good meeting. It's a tough position.
It can be,
yeah.
not always, though. And you never know which one it's going to be until you hit the parking lot, and if the parking lot's full, that's the night. So-
You know, Susan, it's hard. I think many times people think, oh, they forget that you're volunteering, just trying to do a good job, and that you have no motive other than trying to do a good job. So keep at it.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Susan.
Vote to vacate foreclosure decree for 76 Forest Road. Chris?
Hello, Christine Karen, treasurer collector. On June 28th of 2019, the town foreclosed on 76 Forest Road for unpaid taxes and became the owner of the property. Okay, I'm here tonight with Ms. Jean Marie Linscott, who would like to redeem the property and pay the $7,115.47 that is owed to vacate the decree. I kindly ask the board to allow her to do so.
Thank you. I just had one question, and I
Sure.
think, for the public at home and for the rest of the board. This fee includes any expenses we incurred in terms of legal action.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any legal or land court fees, yes,
So we would be made whole by this.
yes.
And this figure's up to date, like up to like 5 minutes ago, right?
Right, I have a check here right now, a bank check for this.
Pleasure of the board.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to allow Jean Marie Linscott to redeem the property at 76 Forest Road in the amount of $7,115.47 that was foreclosed by the town on June 28th, 2019 for non-payment of taxes.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank
Good luck.
you.
Welcome home.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. You're all set. Yes.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Next item is to set a public poll hearing on a joint request from National Grid and Verizon.
I move that the Board of Selectmen schedule a public poll hearing on a joint request from National Grid and Verizon for September 9th at 7:15 PM.
September 9th, 7:15.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Before the fall town meeting so that we can put an appropriation before the town to pay the first year's cost of this contract. I've summarized in a memorandum to you the main points, the main changes in the document. Those changes are highlighted in red. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. If not, I would respectfully ask that the board approve this contract this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. The only comments that I would make is that I saw some very strong, very positive changes in the town's favor, and the one in particular is minimum manning, because I know that that's been a problem in the past, so I commend you for getting that included.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board? Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve?
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Welcome.